All right, your mics are unmuted. Oh,
Yes, I can hear it now.
thank you. Sure.
I'm sure you would love it.
So yeah, for sure, those that like.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's actually 5:59. Sorry, that clock is like 30 seconds back.
Okay.
My apologies.
You tell me when, city clerk.
I will do that. Jeez, I reset that clock the other day. Okay, now we can.
Okay, it's officially 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Councilmember Smith, if you would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. If there are folks in the audience that would like to sit, you're more than welcome to join the Britt family over here in the seats. That would be great. So let's go ahead, clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Smith,
Here.
Ferguson. Here. Wolfvale.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Arsono.
Here.
Burbank. Here. Bender absent.
Councilmember Burgess,on would you?
I move to excuse Councilmember Bender.
Second.
Sorry. Okay. And then, oh, I'm sorry. All those in, I lost it.
All in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Motion carries.
Okay, so, council, are there any additions, corrections, deletions to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Announcement, appointments, and presentations. Tonight on the agenda is the appointment of council committees and the liaison positions for the 2026. So the following will be committee appointments and council liaison appointments for this coming year. Council, you have the list at your desk, but I'm going to read them into the record. Administration, Finance, Public Safety Committee, council members Smith, Burbank, and Burgesson. Development Services, Utilities, and Transportation, our council members are Santo and Smith. Parks Community Services Committee is council members Green, Wolfville, and Bender. The Citizens Advisory Commission liaison is council member Green as the alternate at this time. Economic Development liaison is council member Smith and council member Arsanto as alternate. Pierce County Regional Council is council member Green and council member Burbank as an alternate. Planning Commission liaison is council member Wolfville and council member Smith as alternate. And finally, Senior Citizens Advisory Committee Commission liaison is council member Burgesson and Bender as the alternate. So I'll entertain a motion and a second to confirm these appointments.
Motion to approve the council assignments.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Motion carries.
At this point in the agenda, we're going to move to public comment. Because this is my first council meeting as mayor and chair of this council meeting, I am going to just read from my notes. So public comment period is an opportunity for members of the public to share information and concerns with their electeds. Council will be listening, but will not be responding. There will be an opportunity to speak at both the beginning and the end of the council meeting. You will be allowed to speak one time during the council meeting. You have 3 minutes to speak, And when you come up, please state your name, your address. Example, I live in the city of Buckley. We don't need to have your street address, or Wilkeson or unincorporated Pierce County as appropriate. So I'm just going to run through the sheet here and I'll start, it looks like, with Emily Wagner. Hi, Emily.
Hi,
Go ahead.
hello. My name is Emily Wagner, and I'm a resident of the town of Wilkeson. I am speaking from my own experience as a volunteer firefighter EMT with the City of Buckley Fire Department. I would like to provide a breakdown of the current personnel on the City of Buckley Fire Department's roster. This is to inform the council on how volunteers are being utilized and how volunteers are putting Buckley first. The department administration has a full-time paid chief, but is without an assistant chief. There are 8 volunteer lieutenants, 1 volunteer captain, and 3 paid shift captains. Currently, there are over 100 personnel on the roster, but that does not give a clear picture of actual staffing. 30% are in support services and are not line personnel. There are 68 volunteers in operations, over half are in academy or still on probation finishing their field training programs. This leaves only 24 volunteers who are fully operational. However, not all are firefighters and some serve as EMS only personnel. Of the 24, only 11 live within the city limits of Buckley. The others live as far away as Poulsbo, Seattle, and Marysville, and choose to serve as volunteers in this community and meet the minimum 40 hours per month shift requirements. There are only 12 of the 24 volunteers who are qualified to function as engineers, meaning they are trained on how to pump water from the engine so firefighters can put out fires. At any given time, the only guaranteed staffing the residents of Carbonado, the town of Wilkeson, and the city of Buckley can rely on to respond from Station 34 is 1 Olympic paramedic on Medic 349 and 1 career firefighter EMT, as long as they aren't out on an incident response already. The rest of operations are reliant on volunteers like myself, who either respond from home or choose the dates and times of their shifts. Putting the residents of Buckley first is providing the City of Buckley Fire Department with adequate staffing to respond to emergencies. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tyler Jarman.
Hello, Tyler Jarman. I live in unincorporated Pierce County. Last week, I saw a post on Facebook in one of the Buckley, Wilkeson, and Carbonado community groups sharing a recording of the city council meeting from last month. What we saw in December should be a strong reality check for the citizens of Buckley. This is who you voted for. It was extremely disappointing to see the way that Ron Smith talked about the fire department, which, as he mentioned 4 times during the council meeting, he doesn't understand despite working around them for 25 years. Ron's comments were intentionally inflammatory and uneducated. He is a dangerous misrepresentation of this community. Words and intentions matter, especially when coming from someone who claims to have nearly a decade of council experience and 2.5 decades of police work. Ron claims 8 years ago this wasn't a problem. Many of today's problems didn't exist 8 years ago. COVID wasn't a thing, and the world has changed substantially. Ron's mindset hasn't changed, and it's failing our community. He claims to be Buckley first, but this cannot be true without supporting the life safety provided by the fire department. I live with my wife and 2 kids about a mile up Spiketon from where the city of Buckley ends, which means I live in East Pierce Fire and Rescue territory, but Buckley would be the first to respond to my family. While this would make Ron very unhappy, it would make me very happy. I'm thankful for the Buckley Fire Department and that they would be there for my family. My experience living in Buckley for 5 years has shown me that this community loves the fire department, from the log show, Santa parades, National Night Out, and even community events at Rainier Fresh. In 2025, City of Buckley taxes residents in city limits at 50 cents per thousand of assessed value. Our neighbors in Bonnie Lake, including myself, pay nearly 4 times as much for their fire and EMS protection. Looking at call volumes reported by East Pierce Fire and Rescue and the City of Buckley Fire Department, the response rates are similar at a fraction of the cost. The problem is not the career staffing model, it's the inattentiveness of the former mayor and our current councilman, who refuse to acknowledge the consistent positive outcomes of the Buckley Fire Department. The fire department matters to me because the training of its volunteers and its career members matter. I saw a post recently that 30% of the department members are not currently deployable. From posts I've seen from the fire department itself, It looks like the paid staff continuously support the training and involvement of the volunteers that would respond to my house. The fourth firefighter position was already budgeted for in the 2025-2026 budget, according to the conversation in December. From what it sounds like, this budget is being used for overtime instead of hiring the fourth firefighter at the discretion of former Mayor Burkett. According to the city's budget or the city's website, the city operates with an $8.5 million budget, with the police department, parks department, and finance department all costing more than our fire department. $2.7 million or 32% goes to the police department, 1.5 million goes to parks, and another 1.1 go to the finance department, who has 4 employees to manage an $8.5 million budget. It would seem the comments made in December were intentional. It's evident that the former mayor and Ron Smith don't care about the budget. Otherwise, the fourth firefighter role would have been hired by now.
Mr. Drummond, if you could wrap up, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Their complacency resulted in over expenditures in the budget as they refused to hire the open position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list, I have Nick Van Maren. Hi, Nick.
Hi, thank you. My name is Nick Van Maren. I live in King County, but I'm here as the local 3520 representative for the IFF firefighters here in Buckley. Just a couple things, but one, I want to briefly address what some of the stuff that came up on December 9th. So our members have no interest in taking advantage of overtime agreements, the city, or anything that would bring harm to the community here. We take very seriously our role as stewards of public safety, and we are committed to having a good working relationship with the city and the community. Every single one of the paid firefighters that works here in Buckley started as a volunteer and dedicated a lot of time to the community here before they were ever paid a salary. We as a union obviously share some of the responsibility to make sure elected leaders have the information necessary to provide the best public safety that you can. And to that end, we do regret that anyone was blindsided by overtime costs that arose from our collective bargaining agreement. That was not the intent behind any of that. We're going to refocus on that responsibility going forward. Our local team is working on educational material that we can share with all of city leadership. And we're working on starting regular labor management committee meetings with city administrator Banks and the fire chief. Those go a long ways to helping the information flow well in both directions. We'll also be reaching out to everyone here just to ideally get regular communication established and work on creating a good working relationship. And on the education and information topic, I wanted to extend an invite to anyone in the city leadership that's interested to Fire Ops 101. It's a program offered by the Washington State Council of Firefighters, where elected leaders get to put on the firefighter gear and go to work as a firefighter for a day at the Hammer Training Facility in down in Richland. It's a lot of fun. I've heard from multiple elected leaders that they had a blast and they learned a lot. But you're there doing training exercises right alongside the firefighters in your community. It's a little short notice, I understand. This time I was just informed that we had an availability for our local to host an elected leader. It's coming up March 19th and 20th in Richland. The local covers all the expenses associated with attending. And we would also get you fitted for bunker gear and any other necessary equipment. So it's a regular thing. We hosted every year. So I understand that this was a little last minute, but I would encourage anyone that with some interest in playing firefighter for a day to come next year. But anyway, that's all I have. I'll be quick with it, and just thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. It looks like I have next Brian Howard. Hi, Mr. Howard.
Good evening. Greetings and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Brian Howard and I reside in the city limits of Buckley. I've been a volunteer firefighter in Buckley for 18 years. In addition, I retired from law enforcement after more than 3 decades of service, and I also served as a Buckley council member for 4 years, and I appreciate the large amount of information each of you need to know and how challenging it can be to keep up on everything. I believe my experience gives me a unique perspective, which I would like to share with you this evening. I watched the December 9th council meeting in which mutual aid was discussed during the annual budget amendment process. It seems there are a few misunderstandings regarding mutual aid and the fire department. Mutual aid in law enforcement is handled completely differently than in the fire service. In law enforcement, a supervisor requests mutual aid from other police departments when they believe an incident exceeds their capabilities. This could be for planned events such as a sporting event or a protest, or it could be for an unplanned emergency such as an active shooter. For all other incidents such as a neighbor problem, an assault, or an auto accident, the incident holds until a patrol unit from that jurisdiction is able to respond. In busy areas, it is not uncommon for victims to wait many hours to file an incident report. In the fire service, mutual aid is predetermined based off a number of factors, including the type of incident, location of the emergency, and how many calls are using nearby resources. For example, if East Pierce Fire is responding to a fire and it's predetermined that 4 engines should respond to all fires, and they only have 3 available engines, the dispatch computer automatically recommends the nearest mutual aid resource, which may be Buckley Fire. This very thing happened last night, and as we began our response, their first engine arrived and canceled our response because the incident was not as significant as reported by the 911 caller. The advantage of pre-planned mutual aid is the right number of resources are immediately dispatched and can be canceled if the incident is found to be less serious. House fires are said to double its size every 60 seconds, and cardiac arrest survival is directly linked to the time it takes to begin CPR. If we, as in Buckley Fire, are busy on a call and someone else needs help, mutual aid resources are immediately dispatched and respond into our city to help us. When lives hang in the balance, there is no viable option other than mutual aid. The good news is it's extremely rare that any mutual aid response results in an overtime expenditure. This is because we use on-duty resources for the vast majority of responses, and in fact, if we didn't have mutual aid, overtime costs would increase because we would have to call career firefighters into work on their day off to help when there is more than 1 call at a time in the city.
Mr. Howard, if you could wrap up, please. Thank you.
In summary, mutual aid saves lives and property and keeps our overtime budget from increasing. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Angie Rigsby. Hi, Angie.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Angie Rigsby. I'm here tonight as a property owner in a city, a member of the Firefighters Association, a resident of the fire department's First Due area just outside of town. I recently retired from operations after 27 years serving with Buckley Fire. Many people in the community use the PulsePoint app to monitor emergency responses. The original intent of the app was to notify the public of possible CPR events and give the people an opportunity to assist prior to EMS arrival. Unfortunately, it has morphed into something quite different. People assume they know what is happening in their community based on this app, which is often far from reality. As an example, in 2025, Buckley Fire was dispatched 294 times for mutual aid calls, and 168 of those were canceled, including the recent flooding in South Prairie. It is unfortunate the level of misinformed voyeurism this app allows, which causes social media drama, political misinformation, and creates unsafe situations for first responders. It is irresponsible to assume PulsePoint gives enough information or data for decisions to be made regarding the function of the fire department. Over 27 years, I have seen the changes in department culture, staffing, and response capabilities evolved, and not always for the better. We moved from an in-city responder base to predominantly out-of-city base today. The calls and training requirements have gone up, but volunteer availability has gone down. The city administration wants the department to do more with less, but it has taken a toll on the people who have been willing to serve. A roster is one thing, but the stories and challenges are as individual as each name on it. The effect of those stories you don't see, but I have. In the 2020 comprehensive plan, retired Chief Predmore identified the need for 6 full-time and 2 permanent part-time firefighters. In 2023, Chief Scogan identified the immediate need for 4 full-time firefighters. The 4th firefighter was approved and denied directly by Mayor Burkett, causing the city thousands of dollars in overtime costs. Maybe he should be financially responsible for the cost of not upholding his oath of office, allowing his publicly stated personal bias to interfere with his decisions as mayor. Department personnel give so much only to have their city administration slap them in the face by negative comments, recent wage theft, micromanaging our fire chief, and a general lack of support. My suggestion, let your fire chief do his job. In closing, firefighters, career or volunteer, are not there because of what they do each day, but what they are trained to do. They respond to all calls, any type of emergency, anytime, day or night. It might be your house or your family they get called to. Invitations to an education workshop hosted in part by the Firefighters Association for the City Council will be forthcoming. Thank you for your time and service to the community.
Thank you, Angie. Next, we have Caitlin Pickert. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Pickert. I am not a resident of the city anymore, but I'm a volunteer firefighter paramedic with the city of Buckley. I'm speaking tonight from my own experience. I grew up in this community and volunteered for 10 years before leaving for about 5 years to gain experience as a career firefighter and paramedic. I returned 3 years ago to volunteer again. Because I also served on the department 10 years ago, I can clearly see the changes from then to today. The fire department is not and currently cannot function like it did 10 years ago. Call volume, training requirements, level of community involvement, and in-city versus out-of-city volunteers has changed drastically. All these components are following national trends. The fire service is the all emergencies, any emergency place the public calls when they need assistance. To be honest, most issues are not life or death, but the strain on the system increases year by year. Buckley Fire strives to meet the expectations of the community they serve. However, volunteers alone cannot meet the needs. In 2015, records show approximately 74 volunteers on the roster, and only 64 of those showed up in 2016. Keep in mind, being on the roster doesn't mean that they served the entire year, nor are they cleared to respond. They might have been in training. And typically these days, most volunteers don't stay longer than 5 years. 10 years ago, at least 46 of those volunteers lived in the city limits, and the resident program was fully staffed. Now only 1 of 6 resident positions are filled, and only around a dozen in-city responders are left. The department has had paid staffing since the 1980s, and in 2015, there were 3 full-time personnel, 1 part-time and 1 24/7 staff paramedic position employed by AMR. In 2015, the average call response from volunteers was less than 20 calls per year, with the top 6 responders still only making around 20% of the calls, and several were residents who were living at the fire station. History has shown, as important as the volunteer program is, it hasn't been enough. Call volume has doubled in the last 10 years. We hit a staffing crisis a couple years ago due to high level of people in training and reduction in staffing capabilities. So volunteers were asked to double their sleeper shifts, add in extra weekend shifts. Out of city requirements were increased. Most stepped up and many stepped away. Volunteerism is dying in our country and certainly in this city. 10 years ago, over 75% of firefighters in the United States were volunteer. National rates of volunteers hit an all-time low in 2020, and the numbers haven't fully recovered, still hovering around 65%. People are struggling to provide for their families, and the city of Buckley is too expensive for most to afford to live here. I'm in full support of the combination staffing model that Buckley Fire is using to try to meet staffing needs to provide the highest levels of service to this community. I feel moving backward in staffing or trying to go back in time would be detrimental to the citizens, as well as no longer feasible based on the challenges facing volunteers everywhere. I would encourage the new mayor and the members of the city council to attend the upcoming education workshop that's being planned so you can understand the needs of the fire department and trust your fire chief is making decisions in the best interests of the department and the city. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Okay, let's move down to Michael Phelps. Michael,
Hello, how are you?
good, thank you.
Wonderful. Good evening. My name is Michael Phelps. I am not a resident of Buckley. I'm a resident of Bonnie Lake. I just finished my first year of training to serve with the Buckley Fire Department. I achieved my Firefighter 1 and hazmat certifications after over 300 hours Fire Academy, time spent away from my wife and $2, along with a wage loss of over $16,000 during that time. I recently completed over 200 hours of EMT training, and I'm now starting the 90-day field training program where I will also be required to complete engineer and driver's training. More time away from my family, but for this city. I like to focus my public comment time on the topic of staffing and more specifically safe staffing. I'm going to share my experience on a recent house fire in the city. Less than 2 weeks ago, I cleared my schedule and left my family again and volunteered to cover a night shift and the following day shift because there was only one other firefighter on shift. I'm not even cleared to run EMS calls by myself yet. If I had not shown up on that Friday night, our one person on shift would have had to wait for our partners from Wilkeson or Carbonado, mutual aid from our neighboring departments, or even worse, cancel the call altogether in hopes that someone else would respond to handle our call. 2 people are not enough to safely run a house fire and often not enough to respond to many medical emergencies. I don't say these things to tell you that we're not prepared to respond to these, to the needs of our city, because we are. I say that so you have a better picture of some of the struggles we're going through to ensure that we are ready. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We initially responded with 2 of us on the engine and a single paramedic in an ambulance who was on standby for any potential victims or injury to a firefighter. In the beginning stages of a fire, there's a lot of work that needs to happen. Initial radio report to dispatch so additional responding units have an idea of what they're responding to. A complete 360-degree walk around the building to get an eyes on the situation, look for smoke or fire. Command needs to be established so that arriving units know who's in charge and who they can talk to. Connection to the nearest hydrant needs to happen. Hose line pulled to the front door or to the appropriate entrance. Tools to that entrance. For forced entry, along many other things. The majority of this is completed by a senior member who has the experience and training to make decisions and to be in charge. Being a newer firefighter, my independent tasks are very limited. If I had a partner, I could have made immediate entry and started searching for victims, but I didn't have one. The NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, says 2 in, 2 out for safety reasons. The rule is enforced by OSHA, and really it's just common sense. We had to wait for additional resources before I could enter the home. Thankfully, the next arriving unit, staffed with in-city volunteers, was only a few minutes behind us. This response allowed us to make safe entry to start our search for life and fire. An additional paid firefighter will be a huge asset for the department for safer staffing needs, curbing burnout for our current paid firefighters, and will help the department provide the level of service that the citizens of the city expect. When someone calls 911, they shouldn't have to wonder if someone will show up on time, or worse yet, be able to show up at all because we won't have enough people to respond appropriately. Thank you for your time.
Nicely done, Mr. Phelps. Okay, next I have John, is it Griffin? I can't read the signature, my experience.
My name is John Griffin. I'm the quartermaster for the post here in Buckley. And in our meeting last night, it was called to my attention that the monument, the wall at the monument is beginning to deteriorate. And I was asked to come and call your attention to that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
When you say the monument at the veteran.
Yes.
Chris, can you follow up with him afterwards to
Yeah.
make sure that we
Yep.
have what we need? Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so after Mr. Griffin, I'm gonna flip to page 2. Chelsea Lovejoy. Hi, Chelsea.
Hello. Thanks for having us all today.
Very well.
All right, Chelsea Lovejoy. I am an in-city resident of the city of Buckley. Hello, thank you for taking the time to hear many of us out today. I am coming to you as a concerned citizen before the council in defense of the grossly inadequate statements regarding the fire department last month. The council has primarily been in support of growing our fire department. The charge largely being led by the same council member that suddenly switched his position. The residents are grateful for the support of the council members that are willing to ask questions and gain clarification prior to spouting misinformation. Councilmember Smith, in the meeting, you referenced being a former union president and a retired police officer. With those past titles, I'm concerned with your lack of investigation skills and willingness to spout out misinformation and opinions as fact. You said many statements that simply were assumptions or what someone else told you. You have the ability to go right to the source and pull data, yet you didn't. I have a feeling you're going to get some education tonight and hope in the future that the decisions are based off of fact. Buckley has unfortunately had a string of fires in the last few months. Nearly every fire In the city limits, Buckley has relied on mutual aid to support the on-duty crews simply because there is not enough staffing, whether it be fully trained and qualified personnel or insufficient personnel to meet the WAC requirements for firefighting. On November 18th, Engine 34 was dispatched for a mutual aid barn fire with a known entrapped victim. That was 0.7 miles away from the station. Engine 34 was on the radio and stated they were unavailable to respond due to staffing. A person lost their life in that fire. Now we don't know if having an adequate amount of staffing would have changed the outcome, but I sure do not like knowing that we are unable to staff an engine to respond to an event like that. This is unfortunately our reality. The majority of the time, living with our current staffing model, there are not enough adequately trained personnel to respond in a moment's notice. One point that you also made was that Buckley Fire was no longer transporting for Crystal Mountain. And a contract was signed again this year stating that Buckley Fire would not be the first call, but would still be available for transport. Since December 26th, 18 days, Medic 349 has been dispatched 12 times for transport for Crystal Mountain. 3 of those calls, Medic 349 did provide transport with an out-of-service average of 3 hours per call, leaving the city of Buckley unstaffed with an ALS unit. Another largely misunderstood app is PulsePoint. It's already been talked about. And as we've said, it merely discusses what units are dispatched. It does not know when they are canceled or they are replaced. Just to be clear, Medic 349 is dispatched often to aid the departments that it has mutual aid agreements with. In the last 30 days, Medic 349 has only transported 4 patients under the mutual aid agreements for East Pierce. None of those transports have occurred in 2026. They were all in 2025. Now, I agree with your notion of Buckley first. I love Buckley and have enjoyed raising my family here. I fully support remaining our own fire department, but you need to be reminded of the times and know that it is just not a reality anymore. The town has grown too large. There are simply too many calls to rely on the volunteer staffing model that is currently in place. The day of strictly volunteer fire department is over. It is time to start fully funding the fire department and support the new combination staffing model that Buckley has grown to need. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes everyone on my list on our signing sheet. If there is someone here who feels that they would like to then also comment, we will have one more opportunity at the end. So at that point in time, I'll open up public comment and you can just come to the podium. You don't have to worry about not having signed up, okay? We're gonna move on at this point to committee reports. For the mayor's report, I just have a couple of items. One is that over the weekend, Representative Josh Penner gave me a call. He is our new legislator for the 31st District. Wanted to check in with us, congratulate those of us that just got elected, and let us know that he has a new staff member so that we will be reaching out to them and setting up an appointment to go see him in Olympia and say hello. Also, last night I had the opportunity to go to the city of Enumclaw's first council meeting of the year where they swore in their new mayor, Mayor Wright, and also swore in their new judge, Mayor Judge Johnson. So that was great to see. And then also I just wanted to remind council that fourth quarter public safety staff reports will be available on the January 27th council agenda. So then let's move on to consent agenda, if you would please.
No.
Oh,
Senior Citizen Advisory.
my bad. I don't see that on my edit. I'm annotated on my apologies, please.
All good. Okay, so Senior Citizen Advisory Commission, we met on January 7th. And first we talked about the facility improvements update. So Aaron shared with the commission that the new carpet in the senior center has been completed and the humps in the floor are gone. Upon removing the old flooring, it was a pleasant surprise to find no moisture underneath as had been feared. We went on to talk about the Jingle Jubilee. That was held on Saturday, December 13th, 2025. Sounds like it was a pretty fun time. The celebration was a success with 94 seniors in attendance, and there was much praise about the meal prepared by New York Catering. Much praise about the meal. Unfortunately, this was the last year New York Catering will be in business as the owner is retiring. If you have any reasonable priced caterer suggestions, please contact Aaron or Lori at the Senior Center. The celebration is a highlight for many seniors during the holiday season, especially those without family close by. Thank you to the 32 community volunteers, which included many of Buckley's youth. The program couldn't have happened without all the volunteers who were a wonderful support to the event. Next year's celebration, put this on your calendar, everyone, is scheduled for Saturday, December 5th, 2026 at Multipurpose Center here. So if you are inclined to volunteer, you could probably already let Aaron or Lori know at the Senior Center. We moved on to the 2025 Senior Citizen Participation Update. Aaron shared an extensive report highlighting the number of participants for the many programs the Senior Center offers, including the statistics from the Wellness Fair. An extensive report will be shared with all council members at an upcoming meeting. These numbers exhibit how important the Senior Center is to our elderly community. CDBG funding update. Many thanks to Pierce County, who has confirmed that Buckley will continue to receive the I have a hard time with that. CDBG. I want to just do my alphabet there. CDBG grant that was approved to use during the period of July 2025 through June of 2026. This grant supports 2 essential services, which are the meals on every Tuesday and Thursday, and the maintenance of the senior van. The van is essential to ensure reliable transportation for many senior participation at the center, as well as providing a safe means for seniors to participate in senior trips. Senior Citizen Advisory Work Plan. The tentative work plan that was discussed during 2025 for 2026 was discussed. And lastly, meeting dates, if you want to join. March 4th will be our next meeting, May 6th, July 1st, September 2nd, and November 4th.
Thank you, Councilmember Burgesson. Let's try this again, City Clerk.
On tonight's consent agenda is approval of the minutes of the October 7th, 2025 City Council study session and the minutes of the November 18th, 2025 City Council meeting.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, we will move to the regular agenda.
First item on the agenda is the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee's 2026 funding recommendations.
Move to approve the 2026 lodging tax funding allocations.
Second.
And we do have Director Hines here for finance. If anybody has any questions about that, she's available. None? Okay.
We did.
All right. So I'm going to say all those in favor.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay.
Next item is an employment contract with Samantha Johnson to serve as municipal court judge.
Move to approve the employment contract with Samantha Johnson for municipal court judicial services.
Second.
Okay. And I would note that City Administrator Banks is here to ask any questions related to the contract itself. We were hoping that Judge Johnson would be able to be with us tonight, but it's our understanding that she is being held up on some matters at the City of Enumclaw and is not going to be able to join us. So if anyone has any questions for Administrator Banks? Seeing none? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay. Staff reports, development update. I have Senior Planner Chris Farnsworth here. Hi, Chris.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I just wanted to provide a brief update for you guys. So the development code that was viewed and reviewed by council over the latter part of 2025, we are moving forward towards adoption. We got past our 60-day Department of Commerce comment period. They had a couple of very minor comments that we intend to address with our first update package for 2026. So we will be bringing forward the code for adoption on January 27th.
Okay, any questions, council? Been a long time coming. Way to go, Chris.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work. Good for you. City administrator update, Administrator Banks.
Yeah, so out in the community, you'll see utility workers with shop vacs, which is kind of strange to see. What they're doing is they're actually vacuuming out the debris in these water meter boxes, because we are now required by DOH to perform lead and copper inventory of all water services in town. And a lot of the city's older records, well, the lack thereof records, we need to gather that information for DOH and publish on our website. So you'll see people out in residences' yards doing this work, and that's the reason why we're collecting water service material records per Department of Health. And then I can address your question. The city actually just signed a contract with a contractor to restore these walls, start working and restoring these walls. So you will see work at some point on those walls.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes, thank you.
Is that everything?
That's it.
Chris? Okay, I wanted to also have Parks Director Aaron Snodgrass come up and give us an additional update after the senior center meeting. We have some more good news, and I wanted her to share that with all of you.
Yes, thank you, Council and Mayor. The CDBG stands for Community Block Development Grant. It is federal money given to communities to help with their growth as they develop and as we expand. We have applied and been using ours for the expansion of our senior programs for a number of years. And our senior programs continue to grow because of those funds. CDBG was held up in a kind of disagreement between the county and the federal government, and we were at a threat of losing the funds, which are budgeted at $35,000 for this year as revenue, and really offset our cook cost as well as all supplies for the feeding, and then like Councilmember Burgesson said, the maintenance on our city van that we use for transportation. It has gone through, and we got an increase of $10,000. So that increase up to 45 now will help us also cover our assistant at 2/3 of her salary plus the cook and a little bit more of our fuel costs to keep the program going and help with our volunteer training and recruitment. So we are gracious to the county that they resolved their disagreement, and our resilience in pushing through the contract paid off in the end. So that will help balance this budget and our revenue for this year, even though we'll back bill all of our expenses from last year. It'll hit this year and even out because they were behind last year too. So it all evens out in the end, but good news for our programs and some stability to help the growth of the senior center. So thank you guys.
And I just want to comment, Aaron, that we wouldn't have gotten additional funds had you not and your staff do such a good job of giving them the data they needed to show that that justified the need. So thank you.
Thank you
job.
guys.
Okay, that brings us back again to public comment. So as I stated, everyone that signed up has already spoken. If there is anyone else who would like to speak, please come up to the podium now, state your name, where you live for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Hi, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, distinguished members of the council. My name is Ken Whitmore, and I've been a lifelong resident of the city of Buckley. I'm also a 5th generation member of the Buckley Fire Department. I am a retired assistant chief with Buckley for 20 years and or spent 20 years on, and a retired battalion chief with the Puget Sound Fire with 33 years on. What I want to let you know about is that the volunteer fire service has changed. Prior to approximately the year 2000, the majority of volunteer firefighters spent 20 to 30 years as volunteers with no intent of ever becoming a career firefighter. In the last 25 years, most volunteer firefighters are looking for experience in order to move on to a full-time career in the fire service. This means that the time spent as a member of the Buckley Fire Department diminishes to a few years, and in some cases, only a few months. The Buckley Fire Department is one of the few organizations to maintain a volunteer system in the King, Pierce, Snohomish, and Kitsap area. When I joined in 1990, the annual call volume was approximately 350 calls a year. Today it is around 1,400 plus. My basic firefighter training in 1990 was 16 hours long. It lasted one whole weekend. My EMT class was another 110 hours later on. And that was several months. I didn't have to do that right away. Today, recruit class lasts approximately 6 months for a total of 300 hours. And EMT class lasts 3 months for over 180 hours of service or training. So the volunteer fire service has changed significantly in my lifetime due to the state and national standards required of firefighters and due to the increased call volume. If the city of Buckley wants to provide a legitimate fire and EMS service to its citizens, it is going to have to be made up of career staff and hopefully a continued volunteer system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, Madam Mayor.
Hello,
Carly
Britt.
Britt. I live in the city limits. I've heard a lot of people talking today about statistics, which I think are amazing. We have to also remember that Chief Eric Scogan is a human being, a person, and he bleeds Buckley. He always has. You can see by the amount of people that are here behind him today that he has loyalty on his side, which means he's a good person that always looks after his staff. And I have watched this man, who is a husband, who is a father, a son, put in more hours than I can guarantee any of you guys do on the city of Buckley. He's always here for the residents and for his people. And I think it's time that people take a look at that and give him the staffing that he needs to have in order to continue on being the fire chief. Because the way he's going, he's burnt out. He needs help. And he's put in the time for other people, and it's time that the city had his back as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone else that would like to speak before we move on?
Hi, good evening, Council, Mayor. I just want to get clear. My name's Amy Boucher. I can't remember the order of what I'm supposed to say stuff. I'm not a resident of Buckley. So I just want to say thank you for reconsidering the LTAC grant application for the Buckley Downtown Association and the People of the Plateaus Project. I wanted to get a little clarification. So initially and I was looking through the agenda, initially the amount was $10,217.75 minus the 3,000 that was because we're getting additional funding from an additional grant. And so the awarded amount was the $6,717.75, plus the original agreed upon recommendation, which was 4,000. Okay, so just for clarification, an additional 4,000, so that would be the total, the original 4,000 on top of the, let's see, an additional 6,000 on top of the original 4,000. So just clarification on that. And again, thank you for supporting the projects in our effort.
What I'll have you do, Amy, is follow up with Director Hines after the meeting and go over that with and get you the information you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So at this point in time, we're at council member comments and go to the order. Council member Smith.
So here we are. There's been a lot of hubbub. The streets talk, and here they are. So I am not anti-firefighter. I'm not anti-public safety at all. I'm anti, as a council member with a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer, finding out in the fourth quarter of the 2025, we had $30,000 in overtime. That was not transparent to the council. We're all elected officials with a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer. Yes, somebody said I'm supposedly a retired public servant. Yes, I am. I draw a public pension. And yes, I was a union leader, and I know all things that happen. I want to thank the union rep that came up here who was massively professional. His comments were professional. I have verified Pulse Point numerous times in my neighborhood. I happen to live in a neighborhood where there are some elderly people that need a response. I see when it's cleared. So Pulse Point is not that faulty. I've been on this council 8 years, and I still say, I want to know what has changed. This council and myself as chair of the Public Safety Finance and Committee wants data. What has changed? Besides the fact we all know that we have growing population, we all know since COVID, people have been fentanyl fold and all this other stuff. What has changed? We get a $30,000 hit in the fourth quarter. We all have fiduciary responsibilities to the taxpayer. And you wonder why Mayor Burkett did not authorize the outgoing mayor, the former mayor, authorize hiring the fourth firefighter, despite the fact that we approved it. We have a fiduciary responsibility. None of you as volunteers or anybody else or career firefighters have a fiduciary responsibility to anybody but your family. And we're looking here tonight, and the last time, and people want to pull out a half-baked, it wasn't a full, all my comments on 12-9 were not put in there by Mr. Dinwiddie that was put on there. There was more in there. You didn't hear it all. But here we got 25 plus, and we had probably 18 last time. Where are these volunteers to show up for shifts? They can show up here to flex their muscle. But where are you for shifts? And again, I'm the last person who is anti-public safety. Ask the police department how I fought for their contracts to get fairly done. Ask the fire chief how many times I voted for anything to do with EMS and the fire department. Finally, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of the city of Buckley. That's all. Simple. Thank you.
Anyone else on the council have something they'd like to say? Councilmember Burgesson and then Councilmember Green.
City Administrator Banks, that water thing that you're talking
Denise,
about.
Can you
Mic.
hold your
Oh.
mic closer, please?
I'm so sorry. Usually I talk loud enough. The water issue that you were talking about where they're vacuuming out the,
It's not an issue. It's just we need to verify.
right. Is that a way that I got a survey in my last bill? Is that a way that I can find out what my pipes are made out of coming into my?
So the survey that went out, because this is new to staff, shouldn't have went out to everyone in the city, but it did. Because a lot of, like, for example, Blueberry Farms, which is now being built, we know all those things. We know the service pipe in Perkins Prairie. We know the service pipe actually in Copperwind, which has been around since the early 90s. So we already know what your pipe is, so
Oh, you do?
disregard.
Okay,
Yes,
I don't
yeah.
have to send my survey in.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Don't send your survey in. It was supposed to be targeted at the older pre-1986 built homes.
Okay.
So anybody that got that survey that's after 1986, their house has been built after 1986, disregard.
I
Or
thought maybe I was gonna have to go dig something.
you don't have to We're actually digging both sides of what's called the meter set, which houses the water meter, which charges you water. We're looking at both sides, so homeowners don't have to take that expense and, they don't have to do that on their own expense. We're gathering that information.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Now, if we do find on the homeowner side what's potentially lead, at some point in time, the homeowner will have to bear the responsibility to replace that, which most people will obviously want to replace their lead service. Yeah. So,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Councilmember Green.
Yeah, first of all, thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments. I'm not gonna get into my positions on the matter tonight as far as the fire department. That's we've talked about that a lot last year. My position has not changed since the November 17th study session, which was what we talked about before that too. I do want to know when can we expect to have this conversation again in the study session and dig into the data and do something.
Director Banks.
So right now, this seems like it's been going on a long time, and forgive me, I'm in an interim role, started in October, but the path moving forward, the mayor and I have been speaking, we have juggled around ideas to gather this data. It's not data that necessarily can be collected quickly. It's data, but we're talking about actually forming a subcommittee to study where we are now and study options moving forward. What that committee looks like, we're trying to figure out. But in the shorter term, we're working with Chief Scogan and the mayor, and we are going to start at admin, finance, and public safety to talk about short-term solutions. But this is something that, in my opinion, the city needs to look out 10 years and say, what does this look like? Or 15 years, and what does this look like? And if depending on the option that they choose is how we need to create our plan, how to get there. So we kind of got to work from our end goal, in my opinion, and there's more discussions to be had, but from our end goal and work backwards on how to get there. But it's at some point in time, you guys will be presented with data, hopefully in some sort of data in the first, Mayor, 5 to 6 months of this year, hopefully sooner, that we can start having these conversations. But it's a lot of data, coupled with the holidays that just got over and other things that have happened recently. We'll get going full steam ahead at this.
Okay. Yeah, I think as we go forward, I've been told to keep an open mind and sure, but I also want to encourage everybody on the council to keep an open mind. Don't write off the 4th firefighter. That could be the best route. We've looked at other routes. We've looked at, what does East Pierce look like? It's expensive. What does the fire authority look like? Well, it's expensive and we don't have control. So that could be the route. So don't write that off. But I'm looking forward to having this conversation, and just know we do support you. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the council have anything they would like to comment this time? Okay.
Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Smith.
I would say I support all you too. I support every one of you. And my retirement job is at Glacier Middle School. And when we had Assistant Chief Olson that was here on Fridays, he would bring, maybe some of you were there, to come over to Glacier Middle School and play volleyball and basketball with the kids. It was the biggest recruiting tool ever to get kids to come. And think big, when they're 18, they could go to the volunteer program. I support all of you. I would do anything for you. If I was driving down the road and saw you in distress, I would bail out of my vehicle and help you. The point is, again, I just want you to understand, is we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer. And we have a budget that I believe may change. This is the first time we've had a biennial budget. I believe that possibly we may be looking at going back to a yearly budget. I have no animus towards any firefighter. I may have joked in my law enforcement career about stuff, and you joke about us. I support you all. I want nothing but the best for you and for the citizens of Buckley.
Anyone else? Okay, at this point, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. We are adjourned.
All in favor?
You don't
All
have
in
it.
favor? Teresa said I didn't have to
You don't
say.
even don't do it.
Said.
No vote required to adjourn.
Okay. You.